Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kristina Graff. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the head of social impact here at the Yoga Alliance. Yoga Alliance is on a mission to make yoga a force for positive change in the world. And one of the ways we're pursuing this mission is collaborating with different groups to bring the transformative power of yoga to communities everywhere. And one of the ways we're doing this is a partnership with Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, which is going to be adding yoga to its holistic support services. We are so excited to share about this partnership. And so we've come together today, Yoga Alliance and Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, to tell you more about it, to tell you how it got started and where it's going. So with that welcome and intro, I'm going to hand off to our partners here, Megan and Serban, to introduce themselves.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristina, and hi, everyone. My name is Megan Bracy, and I serve, excuse me, as our Director for Resettlement and Integration Services at LIRS. I've been with LIRS for the past 4 years and worked in the refugee resettlement field since 2005. Also, fun fact, I'm also a yoga teacher. I have been practicing yoga since 2000. And I did my 200-hour and 500-hour teacher trainings in Washington, D.C. at a studio called Tranquil Space, which is sadly no longer there. And I also taught there for a long time as well, many years prior to COVID. So happy to be with you all today. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Serban.
Hello, everybody. My name is Serban Szekely-Popescu. I'm the Director of Innovation at LIRS, and I'm very, very happy to be here with you and announce this partnership. I've been working with refugees and immigrants since 2007. I've had the honor of calling Megan my friend and colleague since 2008. So this has been going on for a long time. And we're very, very happy with the way in which our partnership is developing. And I think you're going to hear a lot of really interesting and great news coming through. I also want to say that I feel a bit like I keep mentioning this to Kristina. I feel a bit like an interloper in these sort of conversations because I tend to sort of like swing more towards the qigong, and I have a bit of an ADHD, so sitting in a yoga position is kind of difficult for me. So kind of moving around tends to get things a bit more exciting, but I have seen from the times I have tried various yoga exercises, I have seen, and especially breathwork, I have seen the power that it has on transforming lives, and especially being able to give you that stability and that optimism that makes you able to approach life in a better and more positive way. And this is what we're here to be doing, to be working together with Kristina and with you to bring these wonderful services to our clients.
Thanks so much, Megan and Serban. And yeah, I'll add a little bit on a personal note about my excitement about this partnership and how it sits very close to my heart. I have worked at Yoga Alliance now for 4 years and really sit at the intersection of what yoga can do in communities that have often had the least access to the practice. And I come to this work from over 20 years prior experience in public health. My work was always focused on health equity and access to health services and to general wellness in communities that were the least resourced and often the least engaged in decisions about programs and efforts to support them. So it was really exciting when we connected with LIRS on this opportunity to bring the practice of yoga into communities that are living with a lot of trauma and challenges, and see how it can be transformative. And it's a wonderful portable practice as well. So I'd love Serban and Megan for you to tell a little bit more about what LIRS does broadly and what you're seeking to achieve in your work around the country, and then how yoga fits in.
Great. Yeah, I'll kick us off. Just a little bit about who is LIRS. So we are the largest faith-based national nonprofit dedicated to serving immigrants and refugees. In fact, we've welcomed just over 750,000 immigrants and refugees into the US during our nearly 85-year history. Our organization was founded during the Second World War to assist the resettlement of Lutherans, hence the name, persecuted by the Nazi regime. But we have been there for every major immigration crisis of our time, from the Cuban refugee airlift to the fall of Saigon to the lost boys and girls of Sudan. And in 2018, we were one of only 2 organizations asked by the government to help reunite families after the family separation crisis that I'm sure you recall. We've worked with thousands and thousands of Afghans in the last couple of years after the fall of Kabul, and also working to support Ukrainian refugees displaced by the Russian invasion. So our work takes many forms. We provide refugee resettlement, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but we also help asylum seekers, we care for unaccompanied children, and we advocate on Capitol Hill and work with communities across the country to really spread the word of welcome. I specifically work in our refugee resettlement program. For those who don't know, refugees are people who've been forced to flee their country due to persecution. And with the help of communities and volunteers around the country, we work to serve refugees and help them rebuild their lives here. We currently partner with 55 local resettlement agencies across 28 states. And our services vary and range, but majority of our services are really to help people get settled in. We meet them at the airport, we set up a home, we stock the fridge full of culturally appropriate foods. And then we help people to navigate, the American systems that can often be complicated for Americans. And so, really helping get kids enrolled in school, gain access to medical care, learn the language, English, very important, and gain employment, and hope to really set people up, for success. And they can come back to us as they need for up to 5 years after they arrive. And last thing I'll say is, as you can imagine, many of our clients, and Kristina referenced this, they arrive after long stays in refugee camps or in countries outside of their own. They are traumatized and have endured, tremendous hardships. And I would also say they are some of the most strong and resilient people that you will ever meet. It's an honor that I get to do this work, and I am, just so excited to see kind of these 2 worlds come together, because I think it's such a powerful place where a lot can happen. So with that, I'll pass it to you, Serban, to talk a little bit more about sort of the partnership and where we're going.
Sure. Thank you so much, Megan. And I want to continue a bit and stress the fact that many times when people think about working with refugees, there's obviously the humanitarian aspect, but as Megan was saying, I think it's really important to see it as a learning process. And people that work with refugees and immigrants get to learn so much about human resiliency and about their ability to continue to hope in a better future, to work with their families, to contribute to their communities. So it's really wonderful to be in this kind of industry where you're feeling like you're both giving and receiving at the same time. And it's a wonderful experience. And we're trying to replicate that with the help of Kristina and the Yoga Alliance Foundation. Now, one of the programs that I've been working with more closely in the past couple of years has been the mental health program. So this is a program that LIRS is funding basically from its own pocket, and it's offering a critically needed services for uninsured clients. So these are clients that literally have no other recourse to access support services. So our clinicians and our clinical case managers do really great work in the community. One of the things that we like to think about at LIRS is that, soon we're going to be almost 100 years old, but we like to think of ourselves as a 100-year-old startup. So we're always trying to figure out how to do things better, how to change things, how to innovate, how to expand, how to better our services. So a while ago, I sat down with Megan and another colleague of ours, and I asked them, we do have quite a few national networks that provide a variety of services, as Megan mentioned, and one of them is intensive case management. What would you think about a possibility to add alternatives to Western practices? So how about adding yoga, for example? And I even remember now how Megan's face just started to glow. She started to smile and she said, I think I know somebody. So this is how it started. You know, there was an email, there was a conversation, then there was an email and a forward and a couple of more forwards. And then I sit with Kristina on a call and we're trying to figure out, okay, who we are, what can we do together? And slowly through multiple conversations, our sort of like idea started to refine. Our goal at LIRS is to expand the range of our services at the mental health level. And we view yoga as being a tested and true alternative and actually adjunctive therapy to talk therapy. So we're planning on expanding basically the range of services we're offering to our clients. And you know, speaking with Kristina and with her staff, it became very clear to us that there's plenty of data, there's plenty of reasons to believe that this is going to help tremendously our clients. So we ended up actually having a bit of a conversation with Kristina originally and saying, how would this look? And then, you know, a bit of a time passed and then funding came through. So I rushed over and I emailed Kristina. I said, what do you know? Now we have some money to try what we talked about for so long. And we're all, both of us, absolutely excited. So this is how it all started. You know, it was us trying to figure out how to better serve our clients. And really originally I thought about it in a very sort of scientific way. Let's try to do a double-blind test and see what happens when you combine Western therapy, talk therapy, and yoga. And I was like, I'm pretty sure the outcomes are gonna look really good if you're combining talk therapy with body work and breathwork practices. So that's how it all started. It was from the beginning a way of trying to add new solutions that the Yoga Alliance Foundation already has, and include them in our portfolio existing services on a national level.
I love hearing this story. Even having been part of it at certain moments, it just reminds me of I think the passion and personal investment, as well as what our institutions bring to the table. And I'll share a little bit of the side of the story of what was happening at Yoga Alliance as these conversations were happening at LIRS. I see this as beautiful serendipity and human-to-human connection, yielding a slow unfolding of possibility. At Yoga Alliance, one of the things we've really been focused on is recognizing and applying the power of yoga in the positive difference it can make, particularly for those who have experienced trauma and stress. And we at Social Impact in particular are looking at ways to document that, because we know how effective yoga is, and we're looking at ways to measure and show that it is a reliable and effective tool for addressing trauma, stress, health, and well-being, both mentally and physically. So that was already on our radar. And then it just so happened that we started to be contacted by different groups about engaging in yoga in refugee communities and supporting the practice for those who are living as refugees. We heard initially these requests coming from the yoga community. And then as we checked in with folks in the humanitarian aid space, we heard a reinforcement of, yes, this would be really useful. There's research behind it. It's worth pursuing. And honestly, I know I personally felt a bit torn in how to proceed, because we knew it could be effective. We believed it would be effective. And we wanted to think very carefully about how to be involved in a way that would center the needs and wants of the community and of those who live as refugees, and not those of us who don't have that lived experience coming in from the outside. So in my past work, I definitely worked with folks who live as refugees in different formats, and I share the deep respect, admiration, and appreciation for the resilience, courage, and perseverance of those who are forced to leave their home and take a chance for the well-being of their families and for survival to go start life anew, and did not want to impose the way we might think introducing yoga would work best. Fortunately, we met some partners who were doing a very community-centered approach, engaging people who live as refugees as teachers, sharing the practice with others. We decided to gather a group of folks together from the humanitarian aid space, from the yoga space, but most importantly, yoga teachers who lived as refugees themselves and who could bring that experience to the table. And we held some discussions to approach this from a perspective of how could, first of all, is yoga wanted within refugee communities? Is it desired? And if so, what's the most effective way to support it that keeps those who live as refugees at the center of the work? And at the same time as this was happening, that was when we connected with Serban and Megan. And so I'm so grateful to the universe for bringing us all together at this moment, but also for the relationship that began, because we thought, hey, this is a moment of opportunity. We had those with lived experience able to guide the best practices. We had some other folks we'd worked with who had really paved the way. And that's how it came together. So Serban, Megan, is there anything more you want to talk about within the space of what's ahead or where you see? I know you've already shared some of the potential benefits of the practice, but do you want to tell a little bit more about how it'll work and also share where we came together on the impact evaluation side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the serendipitousness of all of this. And we're so excited about the partnership. And I think our vision is really to launch a pilot first. That tends to be how we do things around here, is let's try this out. Let's see what we can learn. And then with the hopes to expand it. And so we are going to be piloting sort of this project of combining yoga and resettlement at 2 of our locations, one in Troy, Michigan with our partner Samaritas, and one in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina with Lutheran Services Carolinas. The plan is that the pilot will feature yoga instructors, as Kristina eloquently shared, that are former refugees themselves or have that lived experience, and or others who really are trained in trauma-informed yoga classes, so that we can do our best to really ensure that the yoga that we're providing will be of most use to the people that we're serving, and that we'll find that connection between the two. On a personal note, I feel compelled to share that these 2 parts of my personal life have been sort of side by side for, over 20 years, which is kind of wild. And when I was completing my 500-hour yoga teacher training, I actually wrote my thesis on how yoga could be beneficial for refugees, and really looking at just how trauma works and how it can present in the body, and the ways in which, sort of what research is out there on how refugees are impacted by trauma and what supports are there for them. As I shared in the beginning, a lot of our work with refugees really center on getting people stable, meeting basic needs, but there's so much more that is needed. And I think it's really kind of a dream come true for me to see these worlds come together at last, where I think they belong, and that we're going to be able to pilot this and really see, what are the benefits for refugees, and really learn from that experience, and hopefully, really change some people's lives for the better. I don't know, Serban, if you want to talk a little bit about the impact and what we, hope to see.
Sure. But first, I want to stress out that, looking at Megan, you can see, I've been saying in a couple of meetings before, our worlds are sort of rooms in the same apartment. That's kind of how they are. And it's also interesting to look at the long arc of things and how they progress, things that started years and years ago, and suddenly find connections, very small connections in very strange ways that lead to very big effects. My conversation with Kristina was not always, all the way up positive. There were like ups and downs. There were some questions about funding. Is it going to happen or not? And I think at one point I was emailing with her and I was like, look, another serendipity, it just so happens. So it was kind of like slowly falling in place, piece by piece by piece by piece. So it's fantastic first that I've got to be part of this. I want to say I'm very grateful about it. On an impact level, as Megan mentioned, our clients, usually come with different degrees of traumas that impact the family unit at various levels. So, you know, fathers can, for example, socialize, or men can socialize, for example, a certain type of failure in the resettlement experience as they feel they're deprived of agency and of ability to protect and provide guidance for their family. Mothers can feel like they're falling behind their ability to be caring and to provide protection to their children, and children can just feel simply abandoned. So there's, you know, the same event, the same traumatic event can propagate in so many ways and across so many dimensions for members of the same family unit. And at the LIRS, we have a battery of services that is designed to exactly handle this, right? Because this is probably one of the largest obstacles or challenges in full integration. We want to make sure that people feel completely safe with themselves, in their family, and in their community. And the impact that we're seeing is primarily in terms of being able to feel part, you know, feel safe, feel part of the community again, and being able to contribute job-wise, to seek for employment, and so on. So when I was talking to Kristina and I was saying, you know, this is how I'm viewing this additional module to our mental health services, it was essentially along the lines of a multiplier effect, because, you know, our clients are sometimes concurrently enrolled in a variety of programs. And I was telling Kristina, you know, something like this that would just provide stability and optimism for our clients is going to have a huge impact in all the other interventions they're in. If you're in employment, you're suddenly going to find yourself hoping that you can get a better job. You're going to be friendlier. You're going to be more open to learning new things. That's going to lead to better benefits, better job, better hourly pay, more mobility for you and your children, and so on. So it was just a few connections that I think we were starting to make at that point when we're looking at it and we're saying, you know, this is the best ROI that you can get out of this, because with this tiny intervention, you basically affect outcomes across a range of programs. So it only makes sense for us to see how that works. And as Megan was saying, you know, work the administrative kinks out of the system, and then look at what we can do with our national networks, you know, because we do operate in, I think, around 170 locations. So, you know, we can expand, let me put it this way. But yeah, the way I see it is, aside from sort of like my quasi-scientific interest in seeing the statistical outcomes of combining two types of interventions, is my absolute unshakable belief that these services will be services that will definitely have a return higher than you could imagine in all possible aspects of our clients' lives. And I'm thinking primarily about family strength, family unity, employment, and ability to become a functioning part of community.
I love the way you articulate, Serban, all the ripple effects that this intervention can have, because it starts from within and then it flows outward to all dimensions of one's life. And again, this was another case where there was amazing synchronicity, because we were operating on the same belief that it was not only going to make a meaningful change, but it was one that we could show. And so at the time that we came together, we had been developing a deliberately simple and trustworthy tool to track mental and physical health changes experienced by those who practice yoga. And we had had the good fortune of connecting with some other organizations that were also providing supportive services in refugee communities that were testing out this tool. And I want to name them in gratitude. Refugee in Kenya was an initial partner with us on this work and set an amazing example of how to do community-centered supportive services and integrate yoga to the mental health program. So we've been testing this out, and we are really interested in gathering more data that shows how effective yoga can be, so that we can use it to advocate as part of the standard of services, that it's not a nice add-on to have, but it's actually a necessary component and translates to real and measurable outcomes. So we're excited to partner with LIRS on the use of this, and also on applying what we've seen in some of the best practices for community-centered integration of yoga services. Again, so just a lovely way to tie all our different goals together. And I think now we've talked some about what are the benefits that yoga can offer. I know that many of you listening will already be invested in this and understand how that's possible. I'm sure that there are people wondering, wow, this sounds amazing. How can I get involved? And so I want to actually back up and speak a little bit to how the yoga community has shown up in support of Yoga Alliance's engagement with refugee communities to date, how they've already shown up in support, and how that can tie to what's happening going forward. So first of all, it is very much in sync as well with yoga philosophy that these changes are made possible when we come together as a community. And it's the collective action and each of us doing our part, driven from compassion and from recognizing that we are all connected, to make support possible and to enable all of us to thrive. Those who are living as refugees and those who are not, we are all better when we come together in this work. And we've been in touch with folks from the yoga community in the past about a partnership we had with a yoga teacher living as a refugee from Afghanistan and her pursuit of asylum. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who stepped up in support from that effort. It was an amazing, successful case where over a period of 18 months of people from the yoga community seeing how they could help, and all of us reaching out to everyone we knew in every way possible. And most of all, the refugee yoga teacher herself, Fakriya Mumtaz, tapping into all the possible pathways to asylum. She is now safely with her family in Vancouver, Canada. And in that effort, people from the yoga community living in Vancouver or those who were connected to Vancouver in some way came together to be part of the support system. Megan explained what that can look like, which is showing up at the airport. It's making sure that people have furniture and rides to English classes, or finding their way to navigating the public transportation system, the doctor's office, whatever the needs are. It's that human to human support that really makes a difference. It has made a difference in Fakriya's life. It's made a difference for all of us who have been either closely or tangentially connected, because I think we are all empowered and invigorated by coming together in this way. And so I'd love for Megan and Serban to share, if people want to get involved in that way in the work happening at LIRS, what can they do? What should they do? What are great roles for all people to play? And what are the roles that that maybe aren't for everyone to jump in, and we're carefully managing who's doing what?
Great. Yes. Thank you. Yes. I think one of my colleagues said it best, refugees are not resettled by a single person or a single agency. It takes an entire community to help a refugee family resettle and, begin to feel at home in their new place. And so absolutely, we cannot do this work alone, and we really would love your support. I think anyone who's interested to support refugees upon arrival can volunteer with LIRS. We have a place on our website where you can sign up. And I think, those opportunities can vary tremendously. You can teach English classes, you can help support just setting up an apartment, you can help refugees by mentoring them or accompanying them on their path. I think, volunteering to do something like this is absolutely necessary for the family so that they have support. But as Kristina was saying, it is an incredible opportunity. I think with yoga, I think of seva and sort of the selfless act, of giving, and what you actually, really receive in return when you do that. And I think resettlement and working with refugees is an incredibly beautiful, just partnership to do that. So we would invite you to join us in this mission. And additionally, for this specific program that we're looking to lift up, I recall when I was first, doing teacher training, and I had to do some karma yoga where I would volunteer to go, teach yoga classes. I really, really, really wanted to volunteer at a refugee resettlement office. And even myself, working in the field of resettlement, found it really challenging to logistically kind of figure it out. Our wonderful colleagues in the field are extremely busy, and they're running around, trying to do all these things. And so it can be a bit of a barrier to entry for people to come in to teach, which is exactly why we're creating this partnership, to really take down that barrier and make it easier for yoga teachers to get involved in this way. And so we are excited to launch this so that we can attract teachers who, as Kristina said, have either that lived experience themselves of going through the refugee or asylum seeker experience, and or those who have a lot of experience with trauma-informed yoga, that have been teaching that type of yoga. I think, those are really the key factors for those teachers that we will be looking to bring in to work with us on this endeavor. And, there are, ways that you can reach out to us. We will put the email that you can send your inquiries to below. And I would just welcome conversations as well. I think it's a really kind of a special thing, and would love to connect more on ways to get involved. But there's a lot of ways you can get involved. Serban, did you want to add anything else to that?
I mean, on my part, my hope would be that this partnership would also, go back to what I was starting from, which is the mental health program. We'll also see some form of donations or financial support for the mental health program. So as I was saying, this was my original starting point. How do we make this program better for our clients? And it is, all programs and all fundraising is important. But let me tell you a quick story about one of our clients to see why this particular program is so important. So I'm going to call her Maria. I'm going to use it, a different name. So Maria came from her country of origin with her kids. Okay, and she ran away from pretty horrific abuse at the hands of her partner. Both she and her kids were severely abused, and the mother saw absolutely no other way to handle the situation, just to run. And when she started working with one of our clinicians, Julio, she was going through such terrible time. I mean, she was suffering from dissociative amnesia. She was having issues ordering events chronologically. As you can expect, she was somatizing the trauma. So whenever somebody would ask her even something remotely in the vicinity of what happened, she would start fainting, feeling dizzy, nauseous, like her joints would lock up. So it was pretty obvious that she was dealing with pretty severe trauma. And that was even more important because she was supposed to go in front of an immigration judge and say, well, I need protection because this is what happened to me. And Maria wasn't literally able to articulate why she needed protection. And you know what? Julio did it. Figure out a way to help her. And after several sessions, she was able, it wasn't easy work, right? But Maria was strong, and she was able to make it. And she was able to actually go through all of those horrific events in front of a judge. And she got her asylum case approved. And now she's with her kids in the US. And she's absolutely thrilled. So this is the kind of stuff we're doing in the mental health program. And we want to keep doing that by adding more and more and more programs, yoga, you name it, like add as many things as possible, because I'm going back to what I was saying. It's giving and receiving at the same time. That's the beauty of this sort of activity. You both give something and you receive something back. And this, for me, working with uninsured clients and clients that are suffer from this level of trauma, is one of the most wonderful ways in which you can express your humanity.
Serban, thank you so much for sharing that story. And speaking of somatizing, I was feeling full body chills in hearing Maria's experience and how Julio worked with her to, like you explained, to be able to articulate her case before the judge, which is that's a really high stakes situation as well. And it shows the essential nature of processing the trauma in all the ways. And so we are so grateful to be in this partnership. And I want to just give a little follow-up on those who want to support and engage in different ways. So whether it's time, talent, or treasure, if people want to get involved in person, that again, we're sharing links on how to connect and be a part of what LIRS does in communities around the country. If people would like to share their insights or simply follow the work, we welcome that as well. If folks have the background that's needed for teaching, they will have a way to follow up and express their interest. There may be more interest than is able to be accommodated right now, but hopefully the work will grow and opportunities will grow with it. And last but definitely not least, for some, the most effective path is financial support. And so contributing to LIRS's mental health program is a very special way to support it. Yoga Alliance also welcomes contributions through its foundation to support work in refugee communities. Since we've started to share these stories, we've gotten more and more outreach from individuals and groups that are doing this work across the country and around the world, and we would love to support all of it. And so the limiting factor is resources. So in whatever way you can or wish to be involved, please do. And at a minimum, if you want to share the story and tell what's happening and share about the incredible human beings who, in the face of being forced from their homes and their homelands, are engaging in the practice, which takes its own form of courage. Please share those stories as well, because this is not a them and us. This is all of us. This is any one of us in a moment in life experience that could bring us to this point. And so it feels very perfect for the yoga community to show up with compassion and support and engagement, human to human. Anything else, Megan or Serban, you want to share?
I just want to say thank you. Again, as I've sort of mentioned throughout, I feel like this, for me, feels very personal. It feels like a dream, that I've kind of just been circulating in my mind for a long, long time, coming to life. And so I'm just so thrilled. And I think, I know our partners are just excited and will embrace this as a next step in how we can better support the people we care so deeply about. So I really just appreciate it, and I'm really thankful.
I also want to say thank you to Kristina and her staff that have been amazingly supportive in all ways, that led to this partnership. And I'm really, 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 really excited to see where this is going, because we do have 2 pilot sites, but as we said, we have plenty of locations. So I see there's plenty of ways of overlapping our mission and our goals. And I also want to say that, from a slightly, again, more scientific perspective, the way I view this is we're basically looking at the impact of a new public health measure, applied to very vulnerable populations. So, one of those Friday calls when I was sitting with Kristina, I was kind of like dreaming, so to speak, out loud, where this would go. I say, Kristina, wouldn't it be amazing if we have, like, the same way you're going to physical therapy because your knee is a bit bum and your doctor thinks you need a bit more help. Somebody would say to a yoga studio, and it would be another type of health service that is provided at community level. So sort of like pie in the sky dream would be that we're expanding this partnership at a level in which it becomes absolutely clear from all perspectives, not just individual donors, foundations, but also state governments, federal government, that this is something to be considered as a real solution to many of the issues that we have around mental health in this country.
Serban, I love that you referred back to those conversations too, because the dream you articulated, I remember thinking, you're speaking my language. We want the same thing here. And I look at where we began and where we are now. We're at a jumping off point now that at the time was a hope, not a plan, right? And so it shows how much is possible. And again, I want to thank all of the folks in the community who have helped get us to this point, and also the team members from LIRS and Yoga Alliance who are not on this call today presenting, but they are making it all happen behind the scenes and on the front lines, and deep gratitude to everyone moving it forward. Again, we're dropping links on how to support in various ways. We'll look forward to sharing the continuation of the story. But for now, I thank LIRS with my whole heart for the trust, the partnership, the collaboration, and may it go forward in beautiful ways. And we look forward to continuing the conversation as things unfold.
Hear, hear.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.